Hello again. Political parties have until next Wednesday, that's the 1st of September, to submit the names of the people they want to form part of a parliamentary panel. This panel is going to be investigating the controversial theft at President Cyril Ramaphosa's Palapala farm in Limpopo in 2020, where millions of allegedly foreign currency was stolen. Some political parties are calling for a secret motion of no confidence against the president. But to discuss whether this panel will lead any results, I'm joined now by political analyst Lukhona Mnguni. Lukhona, very good afternoon to you. Welcome to Today, and thank you very much for your time this afternoon. Is this parliamentary panel a step in the right direction in investigating the Palapala farm scandal?
Well, very good afternoon to you, Braden. Yes, it is a step in the right direction because it's prompted by the rules of Parliament, which were adopted following a constitutional court judgment that said that Parliament needs to consider a process before the consideration of a Section 89 removal of the president. Now, in South Africa, we say Section 89 is our impeachment clause, even though it is not worded as such, and it has a high threshold, not like the motion of no confidence that requires 50% plus one. Section 89 requires a 2/3 of the National Assembly, but it categorically states the violations, and there are 3 of them that could trigger a removal of the president. But it's also important, Braden, because if a president is removed by Section 89, they lose their office benefits. And therefore, it was felt that the standard is not high enough in considering motions that are brought before the House using Section 89. So then new rules were adopted, and it's going to be the first time that these rules are actually being put to task. So the process that the Speaker has now triggered is for parties to give names of the 3 people who must be appointed to a panel that will have 30 days to consider whether or not there is merit to proceed with the motion tabled by the African Transformation Movement, given the evidence that would have been submitted to that panel. So if that panel, Braden, then says, yes, there is merit to proceed, this is what we have evaluated in terms of documentation tabled before us, then Parliament would have to appoint an ad hoc committee that is multi-member, that is multi-party by nature, and it is that committee that would then do the hard labor of, checking the evidence, calling witnesses, and all of these things, akin to the public protector process that we are seeing. And eventually that committee will deliberate and conclude and then make a report to Parliament itself.
Yeah, look, we're going to unpack a little bit of that, a couple of more questions. But before we do so, I just want to take our viewers back to the moment where some opposition parties in Parliament, the likes of the EFF and so, got together in the ATM, just to explain their approach to this panel. Let's just take a look at what Julius Malema said on that day.
Reserve Bank, the Financial Intelligence Center, the South African Revenue Services, and the South African Police Services must not be allowed to be part of the cover-up mission that seeks to hide and conceal the fact that the sitting president has violated the laws of this country, his oath of office, and the Constitution. Opposition parties will request a follow-up meeting with the Speaker of the National Assembly to discuss all accountability issues, including the usage of a secret ballot for motion of no confidence. Opposition parties will intensify our collective and individual court actions against the Speaker of the National Assembly and all other institutions that are attempting to suppress Parliament's constitutional obligation to hold the executive and Parliament accountable.
It seems like from that statement there was a concern by the opposition parties like the EFF to say there's attempts to stop this process. There's an attempt to stop Parliament, for example, from exercising its oversight over the executive properly in this matter. But I have a question, Lukhona, that says, how trusting should we be of a panel put together by politicians? Because no matter how we look at them, they're all politicians sitting there in Parliament. And they're going to have time for 1 month to determine whether or not the president should be subjected to a similar process like the one that Busisiwe Mkhwebane is going through currently.
Well, but then we will have to trust the integrity of the members who will be appointed to that panel. At the same press briefing that you have just played from, we did hear that there would be moves to try and have some opposition parties agree on names so that the list submitted to the speaker is not too long. And what I think we can gauge there is to see how serious the political parties themselves are. We've already had the names of former Chief Justice Mogoeng, Deputy Chief Justice Dikgang Moseneke, and the former Judge President Bernard Ngwepe, former Justice Yvonne Mokgoro, being touted by some opposition parties as the names that they will submit. Now, if you look at the strength of those names, you will know, Braden, former Judge President Bernard Ngwepe was trusted with the matter that involved the former Minister of the Department of Social Development, former Minister Bathabile Dlamini, and he executed his tasks on behalf of the Constitutional Court's request with diligence. So I think we will have to trust the integrity of the people who will be appointed to that panel, that they will exercise their duties to the best of their abilities and capabilities. And yes, the statement from Parliament emphasizes that it would be important that one of those three panelists is a judge, whether a retired judge, and of course there will be concurrence from the Chief Justice currently. But I think it's the integrity of the panel that will really matter rather than how they got to be appointed.
Yeah. Let's see what names pop up on after the 1st of September. Lukhona, thank you very much for your time here on Today. Of course, Lukhona Mnguni, you can catch him on with his program on the sport. That's on Sundays here on eNCA. That's political analyst Lukhona Mnguni.